Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm Shahar, MVP Product and Strategy here at Ever After, and I have here Sam that will introduce himself in a moment. Sam is the manager of consulting services at Salesloft and is a dear customer of Ever After, and we are super excited about this webinar. So maybe before we start, Sam, if you can introduce us yourself.
Yeah, maybe some personal stuff and then a little bit of my background at Salesloft. I live in Northeast Georgia, about an hour and a half outside of Atlanta, the city of Atlanta here in the US. I've been at Salesloft for 8 years now. Started off on the SDR side of the business, moved into implementation and onboarding. I did that onboarding customers for about 5 years. And then I've been managing one of our consulting services teams for about 3 years now.
Nice. That's quite a journey. All right. For those of you who are not familiar with Ever After, so Ever After is a B2B outcome-based customer interface. With Ever After, you can build interfaces throughout the lifecycle of your customers, your partners, and your prospects. It gives you the opportunity to provide a clear path toward the right actions that will eventually lead to better customer objectives that will help you to achieve your business outcomes. It's a white label solution, and we will talk a bit about that. But for those of you who are not familiar with Salesloft, Sam, if you can share a bit about what you do over there.
Yeah, sure. Salesloft's the first AI-powered revenue orchestration platform. I do like to call out that it is used by really small customers, so customers in emerging markets, but it's used also by some of the biggest companies in the world, not just in technology, companies like IBM, Google, 3M. Salesloft's utilized across organizations to engage with prospects, but also customers throughout the entire customer journey. I think that's an important thing to remember. If any of y'all are like early Salesloft adopters, you remember we were very focused in sales engagement and the SER realm of things, but it's very much a revenue orchestration platform used across the entire customer journey now. And more recently, we've employed AI to analyze and synthesize data across millions of buyer and seller interactions, activities, and outcomes. And the biggest thing is what you're able to do with this. So it equips revenue teams with tools needed to act on the most critical items or insights and actions so that you can figure things out like who's in the market now, what actions do we need to take for them now, when do we need to take these actions, and why are these actions crucial? Say that's how I would sum up Salesloft, Shakar.
All right. So thank you, Sam. I'm going to stop sharing the screen so we can have more and nicer settings. So as I mentioned, by the way, it's been a pleasure to working with you and the Salesloft team in the last month, in the last few months. And I think that what I really enjoyed seeing and learning and even being like a fly on the wall is what's your approach as an organization and your team to customer facing aspects. And if you can share with us a bit about your company approach or North Star vision on customer facing elements.
Yeah, like our North Star. It's a good question, and I'll answer it on the company level, but also on the customer org level. So customer org being support, consulting services, CS, all of those organizations together. But on the company level, our North Star has always just been to transform the way buyers and sellers drive repeatable outcomes. On the customer level, we want to scale a high-performing team while driving customers to adopt Salesloft and deliver business outcomes. I think that outcome piece is critical because if they're not getting out of the platform what they originally intended for it to do for them, they're not going to renew.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that a lot of our audience can relate to this as a challenging piece, how you actually make them to do the right actions, that they can achieve the right outcomes of why they purchase your software. By the way, I didn't mention it at the beginning, so sorry about that. The webinar is recorded. You will get the recording right after. And
Yeah,
if you have
good
any
point.
questions for Sam, feel free to shoot them here on the chat. We'll make sure to reply them. Okay, so you know that you need to make sure that your customers take the right actions toward the right outcomes. What challenges you had to accomplish this vision?
I think it's going to be, so the challenge is going to depend. I've always thought, depending on the segment you're serving. So, because for us, depending on the segment the customer's in, depends on like the volume of customers each team's serving. And I'll explain a little bit more of what I mean by that. I didn't mention in my intro when I was talking about my current role that my team has the pleasure of serving customers in the commercial and SMB space. And so naturally, we'll have customers that purchase less licenses, but there's a lot more of them that we're having to serve. And I'm even thinking back to when we first started engaging with Ever After, my team was probably simultaneously onboarding 200 customers at one time or at any given time. So over 1,000 a year. And a question that I've always had in my head, and I'll relate this back to the challenge part, is solving for scale is one thing, but being able to tailor your onboarding experience to where it's actually speaks to each customer's unique challenge without completely destroying your scaled model is like this huge. It's this question I've just always wanted to solve in the back of my head. And we had a wonderful webinar based model that scaled really well. It worked for many, many years. And I'm really glad I wasn't part of building that solution, but it was an amazing model to inherit and be able to manage for so long. But the gap was that it was more generic. And so when stuff's more generic, I think we find that customers were not attending the webinars, or they attend the first one or the second one and then drop off because it's maybe not speaking to their specific use case. And then that leads to customers not getting the instructions they need to set up the Salesloft platform. And then when they finally have their live session with the consultant, instead of us being able to focus on our deployment plan and our training plan and actually getting users comfortable on the platform, we were just doing stuff that could have been done on day one had they gone to the webinar, but it was a huge time commitment for them. And so I think the biggest challenge, to go back to your original question, is how do you maintain scale, but also speak to each customer's unique needs and their goals and tailor the experience to their outcomes?
I love that. I think that I think that we as the professionals, like the customer success industry, have evolved, and I think that when we started to talk about scale, then it was just like more like the one to many and how we can touch more customers in like, but then we might have lost the way that to meet them the way they should, or the way they anticipated. And I think that this is the fact that you wanted to solve that. That's a big, I think it's a big thing, that to understand that, okay, we were able to scale, but now we need to scale in a more personalized way. So I love it.
Exactly. That's really the short, that's the TLDR. Scale, but it's got to be personalized.
All right. So lucky for us, you chose to use Ever After and share Ever After interfaces with your customers. What made you choose Ever After?
It was, well, it's related back to my answer to the last question. And I have a teammate that's on the CS side of the business that messaged me, and this is all really funny timing because I was wrestling with that question of how do you personalize but also maintain scale. Like that was a question I was always wrestling with. And then around the time where my team really started experimenting with just little solutions, I think at one point we even like built a Google site and were wanting to see if we could use that to help customers self-serve a bit better in onboarding. And we determined that wasn't going to be something that worked. But it's funny, at that same time, a teammate of mine on the CS side said, "Hey, I heard about this tool Ever After. Do you want to join this demo with Josh?" And when I got on and saw it, it was the first 5 minutes. I go, oh, this is the missing link. And the reason I think I'll sum it up is that ever after and the way that we've been able to build our solution just puts the power back in the customer's hands. So a lot of the stuff that requires just it's not something that requires a lot of strategy to set up. It's just maybe more point and click is the way I'll describe it. You can put all of that in the customer's hands and make it really easy for them to self-service that stuff, and it frees up so much capacity for the consultants or CSMs or support people to actually have meaningful conversations, to be able to better use their live time with the customer. So that's why I would say that's my personal reason why I wanted Ever After, but I can't speak for everybody internally. I'm sure there's other opinions out there.
Yeah, but I think that you describe it perfectly. I think put the power back in the customer hands. I think I really like that, because when we feel empowered, then we are more eager and motivated to do the right actions, and then we are eager to learn or to try new stuff. And I think so it's really good, I think, angle on like what sentiment or what emotion we want our customers to feel.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Ever After, by the way, you can deploy multiple different customer programs on top of Ever After, from pre-sales to post-sales to onboarding and QBRs and a whole bunch of different programs that's supposed to serve different use cases with your lifecycle, with your customer lifecycle. Can you tell us a bit about the use case that you've implemented with Ever After for now?
Yeah, sure. And I guess I'll also, because I'm obviously biased and totally focused on onboarding customers, being in a consulting department, but that's not our only plan for Ever After. And obviously we'll get into more use cases or future use cases a little bit later in the conversation. But as a starting point, it's solving the scaled onboarding for our down market customers, our SMB customers, small commercial customer. It just made sense. Thinking back to when I watched Josh's demo, and even my teammate on the CS side, she was saying it just makes so much sense to start with onboarding, because a lot of times the way we do onboarding, it's systematic process process. You got set this up, set that piece up, and then deploy to users. And so I think it's a perfect starting use case for Ever After. Shakar, if I didn't fully answer the question, you just let me know. I can add a little bit more detail there.
No, so yeah, the main use case or the starting use case of your implementation with Ever After was around the onboarding for the commercial customers.
Yes.
Who was involved in this project internally?
I had no idea how, like, a lot of people, and when I first saw Ever After, I had no idea it was going to turn into such an amazing cross-department collaborative effort. So we've got, I think it starts with good, obviously top-down leadership. And then anytime you're trying to buy new software, it's so scrutinized now, and you have to have the leadership buy-in. And so we have alignment up to our executive team on this project and initiative. But then when we're actually like implementing the solution and have done all our strategy around the solution and what it needs to look like and what it will continue to look like in the future and evolve into, we have CS, consulting services. Obviously, that's where I am in, or where I sit. We have our customer ops team. They help us with a lot of the technical implementation pieces. But then we have a partnership with product too, and they've been helping us with the look and the feel of the onboarding hubs, making sure they're on brand and they look professional. And they're helping us with some other technical related items that maybe go a little bit outside the purview of our ops team. And so I'm sure there will be more people involved in the future, but at least 4 or 5 different departments.
Nice. And by the way, again, I really had the pleasure of like being a part of few of the discussions, and the level was like so deep and so high, and it was really amazing to see how you collaborate on that and how you approach it in a very strategic way, and the fact that product helps you identify how it could be. Ever After is a white label solution, and it's like a no code solution, but still being able that the product team will give their thumbs up on that. It was really, really great to see.
Yeah.
So we have an onboarding use case on an Ever After interface. Can you help us better like paint it? What components or like what elements you include in such interface for your customers?
Yeah. And I'm actually, I don't want to fully answer your question with a question, but I'll tell you a question that I would ask myself. And I started to think about once I knew Ever After there's a pretty strong chance we were going in this direction. I'll share with everybody here in case maybe y'all are Ever After customers or you're in the market for this solution. But if you're in the market for this solution, you've never implemented it before. Something that really helped me is thinking back to my problem. So how do we take more point and click? Really, the goal was to create more capacity for my team members to be able to have conversations centered around goals and adoption. Well, I had to look at what are the blockers to being able to do that. Okay. So it was maybe the consultants having to do too much technical setup in their conversations. How do we eliminate that? So the question was thinking about was how do we make this as easy as possible, like as simple as possible? I don't know if you all have ever gotten furniture off like Wayfair or something and you get the instructions, and if something's not clear, you're just going to get frustrated and you can't get it done. I wanted to make sure that anybody could open up this hub and just get started, maybe even before they have a consultant assigned, so they're not even having to wait for a human. And so that question really informed the way that we started to construct the hub. And so, I mean, I think it's pretty simple, Shakar. I don't even have to get into a ton of detail. It's a combination of video content, of text instructions, so copy, maybe some how-to articles, followed by a task and an action that takes them to the app and shows them how to do it within Salesloft so that they're able to get it done. Another component to our hub that I really like and the way we structured it is I always think about time being a competition to my team, because we have, I might have a VP of sales that's sponsoring the Salesloft project. And if they are also participating in some of the tasks, some of the setup items, they don't have a ton of time. And so if they only have maybe 20 minutes on a Tuesday to dedicate to implementing Salesloft, I want to make sure that they can be as productive as possible within that 20-minute period. And so the way that you can construct your hubs and the way we've done it is make it very easy for you to almost bookmark where you've left off. So you have your task plan, you get done what you can, and then you can exit out of it and come back to it later on, versus before they were just going, I have to go to a 1 hour webinar. Well, I'm just not going to do it. And then they get nothing done. So hopefully that gives a little bit more insight into what we were thinking about when we structured this, but also a bit more of how ours is structured.
I think that what also really, really stands out is the fact that you try to think about what is for every given day or every given time frame, what is the next best action that my customers should do. Let's assume that they're only willing to invest 5 minutes a day to the Salesforce implementation. What is the most critical path that they need to take? And I think that the fact that and the way that you structure that, like day one and then the following, it really helps to know what indeed is critical for the success, and then what we need to do after that.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, Shakar, and I thought that, I mean, I guess I can't take full credit for thinking about things in that way or approaching the Ever After implementation in that way, but I feel like Josh, he and when we were still evaluating the solution and all my conversations with you, I feel like you always did a really good job of helping us center around that. I'm thinking about, I maybe my memory is getting crossed here, but I feel like I asked you for early suggestions in the beginning, and that little tagline that y'all have, what's the best next action, can really help customers simplify implementing your solution. And I know a lot of your preset kits that you'll have when you're building it out, the templates that you all provide to give people an easy starting point, and they really set it up with that in mind. And I think it really simplifies the ability to implement Ever After quickly, just thinking about it in that way.
In many cases, we mistakenly think that our customers are our project managers, and that's not the case. They don't necessarily have the skill set to be a project manager, or the capacity, or the desire. And I think that if we understand that, and we understand that like we basically supposed to help them succeed because they have a lot of different goals and a lot of different objectives, and the reason that they chose us is to help them to achieve them. And then if we remember that and be even some kind of humble around about that, it really helps us to really think about what they should be doing.
Yes.
And also, I think that the first thing that you mentioned is the fact that you really help them to close the loop, because you provided them with like a clear instruction. This is the next thing that you should be doing. Here is how, and click here, and it takes you to the right place where you actually do it. So it's like really helping them in a very like context-based approach what they need to do.
Right. I guess to reiterate something that I said, and this was I can't take credit for this one either. When our chief customer officer, Sam Loveland, started about a year ago, that was something that she kept thinking and mentioning to my VP, which was how can we get people to start taking action where they don't even have to wait around for someone, because no one wants to wait around, and you're gonna get a consultant assigned to you pretty soon after the deal closes, but there might be a 1 to 2 day delta there where we can use that time to give customers the ability to be productive and to feel like they're making progress. Think about the quick wins that they can to make. And that early excitement motivates people to continue going, and instead of waiting around for 2 days where you really start to lose momentum if you haven't making any progress.
So I think that we have here a few steps. So first of all, by understanding that we would like to put the power back in the customer hand, and by crafting like the right actions at the right time in a very actionable way. And also, I think that starting with quick wins is really important, because this gives us like a good start, and it increases the chances of us to complete more and more stuff. I mean, you should never start with the most complex task as the first task, because it's just like you look at that and then you're just like go away. And I think this is another really important element. Find those quick wins that can help your customers to enter this like momentum of like implementation and success. How did you measure, by the way, the impact of the solution?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, we had a pilot. We obviously piloted this. I mean, this is a big adjustment. So we did a pilot period, and we came up with a set of success metrics, or I guess said differently, I wanted to be able to, on paper at the end of it, show leadership that we actually did move the needle in a certain direction, or be able to clearly say to them that it was a successful pilot or not. Because our goal was to sunset our old scaled model, and I had to use data to be able to share that story. One of the things obviously is time saving. I don't think we don't want to focus too much on time saving, because by itself, it's like, what is time saving? Everyone's software helps you save time, but it's what we did with the time that we save. So from a time saving standpoint, there was kind of two buckets. It was one, how much time was it saving the customers? I calculated that, or I confirmed that they had to go to 9 to 10 hours worth of webinars over our onboarding period if they wanted to get every piece of instruction that we offered. That includes all the configuration calls, all the setup calls, all the training. So we've already saved the customer almost 10 hours over the course of a project by switching to Ever After. The other piece was the time saving for the consultants. Obviously, eliminating the webinars saves each consultant on my team about 3 to 4 hours a week. So that's the time saving element. And then it's what you do with that time, which is where it really counts. So we have an internal scoring system and way we evaluate the health of a customer's onboarding or success of a customer's onboarding. the first piece of it is quality of setup. And so we found a 5 to 6% increase in our setup scoring, or the way that we score customers on their setup, 5 to 6% increase. And then the adoption piece, which is really what you're after. I mean, as onboarding consultants, our job is to get customers to use. Like, that is your job. And we saw a 12 to 13% increase in our adoption scoring for customers that use the new version of our onboarding that included Ever After. And we've continued to use these data points post pilot. We're continuing to see them increase because obviously the consultants have to get better at using this. But the fact that they were able to pick up this tool and be totally green at using Ever After and get these kind of results was just, it's really amazing.
And this is from the pilot group, right? Those metrics.
These are pilot. Yes, these are pilot stats. I don't have any stats on here post pilot, but we have continued in this direction. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Probably it will just get better. I think that, by the way, the fact that you started and that you measured how much time you saved for customers just speaks about how like Salesloft as an organization really understand the persona that you're selling to, right? I mean, they're busy people. They need to allocate, like they can only allocate a very specific amount of time, and like by really succeeding in saving them time, I think it's a really amazing win. By the way, in terms of how we like to look at like how we like to evaluate the programs that are on Ever After. So we do have some metrics that you agree that we will share, and some engagement metrics that can really help us understand the quality of the content and the quality of the experience that your customers are having. And we can see that almost 80% of customers visited the interface more than once. It means that they actually repeated more and more and more to the interface. It means that they were able to see a lot of value in it. And in addition to that, we also take a look at what is the percentage of customers taking actions. And we talked about the fact that you basically build the use case and the interface with a very easy to work bite-sized tasks with the right actions. And we can see that actually not only that this number is on average is 85%, it's actually increasing over time. It means that the interface is super engaging and very actionable for customers, which is really, really nice to see.
The way you present.
We have here. Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, I like the way you present those. Thank you.
Cool. And by the way, if just another like a very, very nice story on that, one of your pilot group customers actually expressed that this was the best experience of implementing a system they ever come across. And soon after that, they actually became an Ever After customers as well. And they are now sharing Ever After interfaces with their customers because, as they said, they really want to have the same experience that their customers will say. So I think that's a really, really good confirmation that you've built something really, really powerful for your customers. So that's really great.
That was the biggest compliment, and like just validation that we were on the right track when you shared that with me. And yeah, I wanted to make sure that we shared that today because, you know, Shakar was asking me about customer sentiment and the types of feedback they were giving us. And, you know, you all have, I'm sure, have experienced, many of you sending out a CSAT survey and they give you feedback. And sometimes people are just really nice and they give you a high score. But I thought that this best captured how valuable Ever After can be for an organization. It's somebody spending money on that software after they have the experience they have with us. Best compliment.
Yeah, that's a really an amazing story. All right, so we mentioned earlier that you started with one use case, which is the onboarding use case for the commercial customers. And then I asked you if you can share with the audience, and you prepared a nice slide. So if you can talk about it, what's the future holds in terms of what other use cases and how will you approach delivering interfaces for other like programs that you manage.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can speak more to in more detail to the onboarding side of things because obviously on the CS side, I'm not the point person for deploying those types of use cases. We have other people involved, but I can quickly hit on a few that we're considering. So obviously continuing to scale this up market. I would love to see this be used by larger commercial customers that buy Salesloft, enterprise customers that buy Salesloft, and so that's one big piece. But then, and you look on the Ever After website and all their use cases that they position their product around, and CS is a big one. So how can we use this to continue to promote scale on the customer success side? And I think you can think about it in a really similar way to what I did, which is how do we make sure our CSMs are having the most valuable conversations possible while they're on the phone with the customer. And I think you do that by scaling some of the easier things to complete or things they need to be thinking about on the giving the customer the power to do that. And then the everboarding piece, the concept around. So this is more of a concept right now, but how do you onboard customers that buy new users? I think that's a really great way to deploy Ever After. It's this, okay, we have an existing customer that has 500 users. They've just bought 200 additional licenses. Well, you're not going to necessarily send them completely back through onboarding because they've already set up the platform. And so maybe the onboarding package they originally bought isn't the best service for them. So what does it look like to quickly and at scale onboard those 200 users? I think that's another big piece that we have to solve.
By the way, I think that the term overboarding is really powerful because it could be an onboarding for a new admin in an existing org. It could be an onboarding of a new model in an existing org, which is also like we always do like mini onboarding plans to different use cases, to different modules, to different personas, to different customers. So I think that's a really great term to look at that. We are in an ever onboarding.
You just called something. Sorry to cut you off, Shakar, but you made me think about something I didn't necessarily mention, but it was sort of assumed when I was giving my answers, at least to me, that all of the design around all of these hubs should be tailored to the persona that you're serving. And so you could do a user onboarding hub, but it could look different depending on who the person is that's receiving that hub. So it could be, you could have a manager hub because managers might use your solution differently than an individual contributor. And just be thinking about what personas are we serving, and let's make sure that we're using Ever After to serve each one of those.
Yeah, so I think that and looking at the post onboarding and like the customer success element, how you can curate the right recommendations to the right customers and make them act in a very specific, personalized, and engaging way. This is something that is I know that you're working on, so that's good. We have here a few questions. I think that you answered one of them. Someone asked here on the chat, did you have to create different types of kits to match different customers or situations? A kit, just for the audience who is not an Ever After customer, is basically a template of an interface that you can assign to a specific program or to a specific use case. So basically, I think that the question is, did you build like different experiences to different like types or different personas or different?
Yes. Yeah. I almost think it's funny because I haven't been looking at the chat or Q&A, but I knew that I needed to mention that because that's a big piece of it. Because if we give everybody the same kit or the same hub, we're going back in the direction, we're going backwards. I'm going back to the way that we did it with the webinars, which is giving everybody the same instructions and then expecting them to receive that well. I mean, you just can't do that. So
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think that going back to the reasons of how you can do, or the challenge of how you can do scale, but with the level of personalization and to engage with customers in the right way. So I think that the fact that you've built different experiences. So if you're a user, you see something differently that is more relevant for you. And if you're an admin, and if you're an admin to an existing account, or if you're an admin to a new account. So I think this is a really great thing that you've implemented. Another question that we have here on the chat: can Ever After be white labeled? And if yes, how did Salesforce customers know the program is powered by Ever After?
Shakar, that might be more of a product one for you because this all happened outside of conversations with me. I don't know if my consultant was involved, but I found out way after the fact. So,
Yeah,
do you have any
yeah.
insight?
So Ever After definitely is a white label solution. That there are different ways to share it with your customers. You can embed it as a page in your application. You can have a quick link that will open them in a separate tab. You can use a custom domain. So there are a whole bunch of different options to share it. I think that for this particular account, so that the customer, the Salesloft, the customer actually asked their consultant, and she mentioned Ever After. So that was how they approach us.
And I think we were comfortable sharing that. It's as something we were piloting. I think when people showed excitement, we were eager to give other people insight into what sort of technologies we're using to guide our customers in the best way possible.
And I see that we have here one more question. Could you provide an overview of the admin lift involved in creating and sending these onboarding hubs to your customers, and how automated that process is once it's implemented?
I'm sure we both have our perspectives, but I think that, so for me, I'm a big planner, and in my approach, I chose to be very detailed and thorough and take my time with it. But when you get into the Ever After tool itself, it's really easy to set up. For example, they have templates. Shakar, I don't have in my mind like all the different starting point templates that you all provide, but you all make it really easy for somebody to deploy it. I mean, if I wanted to do a really quick use case, you could do it in a couple of hours, like same day. If you set aside the time and dedicated to it and knew exactly what you're doing. Any amount of time that I took was all on me and my team, and we wanted to make sure that we were very thoughtful about what we were rolling out. But the actual lift inside of Ever After is like very simple.
Thank you. And I think that the second part of the question is that once you have it set up, what is like the net time spent on like sharing it with a new customer, if at all?
Probably 30 seconds. If you wanted to do like a link, you could share it that way. You like a password protected link, you could share. I mean, it's a couple of buttons.
Yeah. So once you set it up, every time that you have a new customer, so it all calculates and created like seamlessly. All right. So if you have any additional questions, so Sam, I don't know if you want to put here on the chat your LinkedIn so people can ask, can reach out. I'm putting here mine. If you have any questions, if you would like to speak about how to revamp your onboarding program or any other customer program, feel free to reach out. Sam, if you can just send it, make sure to send to everyone and not to hosts and panelists on the chat.
Yeah, gotcha. You would think I'd know how to use Zoom by now, but I don't. There you go.
All right.
Yeah, you all please reach out to me if you want to talk more. I love talking about this stuff, and I'm happy to connect. And also, if any of you all haven't checked out Salesloft before and have any questions about our platform, also happy to speak to that too.
So, Sam, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. And I hope that our audience were able to learn a bit about how Salesforce approaches approaches customer success and what's your vision in customer-facing elements. So thank you very much and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Thanks for giving me the floor, Shakar.
Bye-bye.